Hi everyone, and welcome to the channel. My name is Infantry Pulse, and today we're going to be doing a top 5 review of the best blue infantry mages. So yesterday we did red infantry mages, and tomorrow we'll do green, so today we're doing the blue infantry mages. As opposed to the red ones, which I thought were pretty easy to rank, the top 5 here is pretty clear overall, but very hard to put in an order, so this one is more debatable, I think, than the one I did yesterday. And again, it's going to be a combination of arena builds, of Aether Raid's offense builds, of Aether Raid's defense builds. So you'll get a little bit of everything here. These are not the definitive builds on any of these units, it's just one build. We'll be talking about lots of different options for them. One of the things that makes these units so great is their versatility. So without further ado, let's get into it. My pick for number 5.
I do fear that if I am remembered by history, it will not be fondly.
So first up we have Guinvere. So Guinvere is one of our newer units actually. She has a very unique niche in that she has effective against tomes. So she can really deal a lot of damage against things like Bremimon, which is why here I have her set up for light season. This is a strict range tank and might be best paired with a near save unit. So near save Hector or near save Duo Adun might be a great example. This is also a build you're going to see a couple times in this video. I don't know that it is everyone's favorite build, but because of Ariola's passive healing that it has, plus any passive healing from Mystic Boost, what she can actually do is she can run a damaging special like Iceberg. Is that entirely necessary against mages all the time? Not particularly, but she's going to be taking basically 0 damage from mages with her extremely high res stat, especially now that we have Dagger giving res in addition to air. So between those two characters, we have quite the bulky res tank here in the form of Guinvere. So again, her niche is that tome effectiveness thing, right? But additionally, she gets extra stats from her tome, and she gets passive healing. So all those things combined make her actually quite a good tank that can afford to run a special spamming build as opposed to the typical healing build that you would see on most tanks. So you might be wondering also why Special Spiral when you have Iceberg. Iceberg's a 3 cooldown special. So here's how that works. Is that she'll take a few combats to charge up the initial Iceberg, or maybe not. Maybe she pokes a unit down on the first turn, and then it doesn't take as many times to get Iceberg all the way through. But the idea is that once Iceberg pops off the first time, Special Spiral will activate, taking it down to 1 charge, so that when an enemy initiates on her, she'll take that initial hit, and Iceberg will be charged up again, she'll fire it back off, right? So if it was a Vantage build, it would need to be a 2 cooldown special, but this Special Spiral 3 cooldown thing is actually something that works, and I actually probably don't see enough of, so I might actually recommend it to people who are looking to deal more damage with these tanks that often take 0, and then also maybe don't need the healing as much.
I wonder, what is my purpose here? How can I make myself useful to others?
Speaking of which, here is another version of a similar unit. So this is a close foil Marianne. So Marianne, again, is another one of our recently released blue mages, and she has a lot of overlap and similarity with Guinvere. The thing is, her Icy Film Belter gives healing during combat as opposed to after combat. If she is within 3 spaces of a cavalry or flying ally, so anyone that has a horsey, she actually gets healing off, which is great for her. She also gets a bunch of bonus stats from her tome and a automatic follow-up, right? So you could run... She is absolutely a great runner of things like null follow-up as well, but I've chosen to give her Iceberg instead, kind of for a similar reason of what we just talked with Guinvere. The thing is, if you juice up her defense stat with attack, defense, solo, and close foil, she can actually be a pretty universal tank, and dealing out crazy amounts of damage with that Iceberg. So lots of things to fear from this Marianne, right? Obviously, you'll have the issue of being within 3 spaces of a cavalry or flying ally, but in light season, you have Air, you have Peony, you have Freya if you choose to run her. I don't believe this set runs Freya that you're seeing on the screen right now. But those are 3 units that you're probably running you're probably running at least one of those units anyway. So just putting, like, especially Peony, who has the cardinal directional drive effect, it's pretty easy to get Peony within 3 spaces. And then additionally, you could have a support unit within 2 spaces, and then she could still be solo, right? So that 3 space condition is pretty generous and helps her out a lot, I would say. Kind of a lot. And this build, again, you could run no follow-up in the B slot, you could run a lull in the B slot, you could run a lot of different builds with this, but I think this one is super interesting, and that's why I've chosen to share it with you guys here.
We're meeting others and forming bonds, and we're fighting side by side.
Alright, coming in at number 3, we have Makaya. So this is actually, you're seeing this pre-Resplendent stats. Resplendents come out in several hours, in like 12 hours from when I'm filming this. But imagine her with +2 stats if you want to go with the Resplendent, and she's just even better. She's already number 3 without the Resplendent stats, and then that's just going to make it even better. I've given an arena build here because, just like I talked about with Dancer Makaya yesterday, the dual effectiveness is really good in arena. Armor effectiveness is really good in arena because armors are super high scoring units, and so you see a lot of them. So this is a Blue Dual Infantry Makaya with a joint drive, with a attack defense bond, kind of working to improve her overall matchups in the arena by boosting her defense, right? So the auto follow-up is super helpful because it gets through Wary Fighter, and then she can usually outspeed anyone that has follow-up denial. Ruptured Sky will also charge after she attacks, gets attacked back, and then attacks again. So that's a good special for her as well. I have Harsh Command here. You could absolutely run Sacrifice, or you could run just a, like a rally, a dual rally, or a rally up. I just choose Harsh Command because I just default to that one when I pick it in the unit builder. It doesn't really matter about the special, I guess. But yeah, so she's a really good unit. She has the auto follow-up, she gets bonus stats from her weapon, she gets damage reduction from her weapon, which I think a lot of people forget about. It also makes her a really good offense, Aether Raid's offense unit, if you want to use her to counter some cav lines, because cav lines are almost always ranged units, and so being blue in color doesn't help her against those green bow calves, but it certainly does help her against a lot of other matchups, for example, duo lift. Yeah, she's just a really strong unit, really powerful attack stat for being released so early. I mean, she's a year 2 unit, and she still holds up very, very well, and her Resplendent is only going to make her that much better.
Bern is the mightiest nation in the land. For us to lose is unthinkable.
Okay, so now we have Brunya, of which I am a part of the Church of Brunya. I absolutely support Brunya propaganda. So the reason why Brunya is so good is that she has pretty good stat allocation overall. Like, she has a decent stat spread. Her defense is a little bit low. Her speed is workable though, and because of Fimbulvelter's ability to negate debuffs, she actually does very, very well as an Aether Raid's offense unit. So you can get her to soak up a Bright Shrine, or you can try to get her to soak Dark Shrine, I guess, as well. That might be a little bit hard sometimes with some of the offense units you have, some of the mythics you have, but you can make it work. You can make her soak either one of the shrines, right? You can make her get to not full health. That's also something that triggers Fimbulvelter that people forget about. But between those two things, you can really, really dish out some really good damage. So I have this is an attack speed solo build. This is the exact build that I run in Astra Season, but I run her with a near save Brave Hector. So with near save Brave Hector, she can just focus on tanking enemy ranged units. So her defense might be a little bit low, it gets to functionally 38, but she's only tanking any daggers and bows you might see, which are less common, right? And she'll really hit very hard on the return attack, right? So she has 63 printed attack, plus 13 from the solos, plus another 4 from Fimbulvelter, gives her an 80 attack. So that's a whole lot for a unit that's also running Soul and able to, recharge her health. she's just a really super powerful unit, and one that is free to play, surprisingly. So she's a Grail unit. You can go out and get her right now, which is just super, super good, right? Something that also I feel like I should mention, even though it's probably a long, long time out, is eventually Fimbulvelter will get a refine, which will make Brunya in the long run even better. It'll make her even better, which will be really nuts, right? So we recently got Sonya, who is in a lot of ways comparable to a Brunya, except she dumps her speed stat. But the thing is, Fimbulvelter is so good that it just makes Brunya outclass Sonya, which is sad for Sonya. Even though Sonya might have her own niche, right? She has super high defenses and low speed. I just think that Brunya is just a better unit overall, and definitely worth the investment if you have the Grails to spend. So next we're going to rapid fire through some honorable mentions here. So our first honorable mention is Ophelia. And I actually really like Ophelia. I'll give her a shout out for her PvE wonder. She really does a great job at PvE stuff. So this is pretty much the build that you want to run. The C slot is more flexible. I have Joint Drive Attack here because it's really good. And the reason why I have Joint Drive Attack instead of Infantry Pulse is I feel like Ophelia's real place is on a mixed team more than it is an Infantry Pulse team. So she can charge up herself just fine. She doesn't need Infantry Pulses to get her Blazing Wind charged up, right? You run something like Thrasier and then like a couple other mages and she's ready to go. You have Hardy Bearing in the seal slot to counter Vantage users, because once you poke them down with Blazing Wind, they're going to be in Vantage range and they could attack you back first. If you're not worried about that, you could always run another Life and Death. Something I want to remind everyone of why it's Life and Death and not Death Blow or something like that, is because the AoE specials work off the character's printed attack. So you see her 75 attack there, that is what she's working with. So the Joint Drive Attack buff does not apply to her AoE special. So you want to boost her visible attack as much as possible, not just her in-combat attack, because the AoE specials trigger before combat. So that's just a reminder there. Again, Ophelia works best on mixed teams, but can be really good on an Infantry Pulse team as well. Next we have Ishtar, and Ishtar is one of the units that has a recent refine that has like essentially a null follow-up condition on her weapon now, as well as a bunch of extra attack and speed. So this is a very, very speedy Ishtar, which is what you want, because you want to be able to run Windsweep on her. And with Windsweep, she becomes an extremely powerful nuke. She is very, very underestimated right now, I feel like. Just because a lot of people don't have her merged up. She wasn't a unit that was super pulled for back in the day. But she is very, very good, especially in an Infantry Pulse team where she can pre-charge something like a Dragonic Aura, or an Iceberg, or a Glacies, or, you know, any of those kind of other skills that really just make her hit very, very, very hard, right? She has a really good matchup against things like Brave Hector, and with Windsweep, she just does a lot of damage. Windsweep Null Follow-Up, she does a lot of damage against many common tanks, right? She has a really good attack stat to work with as well. Right now I have ARD attack speed because it is the most stats that you can get on her for her A slot. But you could also run something like Swift Sparrow or attack speed push and be just fine if that's the fodder that you have available to you. And finally, in our honorary mentions, we have Legendary Julia. So Legendary Julia is actually a pretty good unit. She has the dual skill on her Legendary Blessing, so she doesn't need the B dual infantry in her A slot. She has a Pref B skill and a Pref Tome, which means that she scores actually quite well. I believe she scores like a 180 BST unit. And I have put up here a kind of speedy Julia. You could also run attack speed push in the A slot or anything else. Her tome just gives her a ton of extra attack power, and she really is a nuke. That's really what she's really super good at. You also shouldn't underestimate the power of dragon effectiveness when it comes to arena, because there are a lot of dragons that run around the arena, because dragons typically score pretty well. So this is just, and being a legendary hero, I mean, she gives, you know, the blessing, she gives the extra score bonus to your units, so that's really what you want to have. You want to have, you know, ideal is your 2 fully merged legendaries, so Julia does a really good job of that. She's a really good Earth legendary, and so I wanted to give her that shout out as an honorable mention here. I gave her sturdy impact to boost her defense and improve her matchups against physical units that have DC, for example. But again, you could boost her speed even more to make her really, really zoom.
For this year and the next,
We want you by our side!
And finally, our #1 pick for Blue Infantry Mages is Duo Alphonse. Now, Duo Alphonse is over a year old, but he has aged very, very well. He is super tanky, and he has follow-up denial, and those two things combined make him a really, really great unit. Also, the value of Duo's Hindrance has only gone up over time in terms of Aether Raid's defense, and that's really where I feel like Alphonse shines. A lot of people use him in Aether Raid's offense, but with Duo's Hindrance becoming more and more popular, he requires a lot of support to make himself happen. So something like a Valuria or a Pent or a Raphael, all those units that can pre-charge a special, those are kind of required to make sure that he is charged up with Open the Future. So he does require a little bit more support on offense. On defense, however, this is what you see on the screen is something that's built for a mixed comp, not an Infantry Pulse comp. If you want to run Infantry Pulse, you can absolutely run him with Open the Future or, you know, Ignis or whatever you want to run him with. But this is, I think, the ideal build, truthfully, because you want to be able to have his special charge as much as possible. And so this build is, it's counter to Pulse Smoke. That's really what it is. So because of Imbued Coma's special acceleration, and then times Pulse, pre-charging his special at the beginning of every turn, Ruptured Sky is only a 1-charge special, so times Pulse is charging it up for him. So even if he gets Pulse Smoked, even if he gets reset to max, he still gets to charge himself up with times Pulse. And because of that, he can always fire it off a Ruptured Sky. Now, is Ruptured Sky as powerful as Open the Future? Probably not, no. But it is a really good special to have, truthfully. And it keeps his follow-up denial effect active, which is exactly what you want. Because he is just, he hits very hard. Obviously, he has 68 attack here, which is crazy. Plus another 5 from his Tome, plus 5 from attack defense bond, plus the lull res. He gets very, very hard to kill. And he always has that Ruptured Sky charge, which is very helpful. But then additionally, he gets 5 defense res from his Tome. He gets 5 defense from attack defense bond. He gets 10, max 10, defense from Aether Raid's defense res. It's just, he is very, very hard to kill. And especially when you can't double if you don't have something like Null Follow-Up. It's not only does he hit hard, he also lives a lot, which is dangerous because then he can get into Wings of Mercy range, or he can just ping you off and take 0 damage and continue to be hard to kill every single turn. So because of that, Alphonse is definitely the best infantry blue mage that we have. So I hope you guys have really enjoyed watching this video. It's a lot of fun to make these. If you like the video, make sure to like it on YouTube. Make sure to give the channel a subscribe if you haven't already. Join the Discord server. There's a link down below if you want help with Aether Raids, or if you just want to have a place to hang out with some cool people and discuss Fire Emblem Heroes. That's also an option. And with all that said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for the Green Tome Infantry video. Bye!